So in this video, we're going to walk through creating a simple flow in Power Automate. What we're going to do is create a flow that monitors a Twitter account and then just retweets whatever that Twitter account posts. So let's go ahead, and we're here on my Flows page on my Twitter account, or on my Power Automate account. We're going to do new flow. You can do it from here as well. And we're going to use an automated cloud flow because it's going to be watching for an event. We'll just call this retweet a tweet. And you can search by the connection, by the connector, as well as by what the title of the action is, or the trigger is. So in this particular case, we're just going to watch for when a new tweet is posted. So let's click on that and click create. And it takes just a moment. It'll open up the editor screen. So with the Twitter connected, when it's watching for a new tweet, it can search for terms, it can search for hashtags, it can search for anything from a user. You can also use, you see the example here, love or hate. It'll let you search for text. Now, obviously, you have to be very careful, otherwise you're going to get a huge number of triggers. For instance, if you put in a very generic term, there's a lot of tweets going out all the time. So in this particular case, I'm just going to look for anything from my own account. And then we are going to add an action, and we're going to look for a Twitter actions. So in the top here, you can, again, search by the name of the action or by the name of the connector. In this particular case, I clicked on, or I typed in Twitter, and the connectors up here, you can see there was only one to select from. If there was more than one connector to choose from, you would see all of them across here, and then you could subfilter by clicking on that in the upper one, and it brings up the full list of actions for that particular connector. It also, you'll see, has tips that come up for certain connectors. Just depends on what was programmed in. In this particular case, we're going to post a tweet. I could use retweet, but because I'm monitoring my own account, I'm going to tweet to my own account. The text can't be the exact same, otherwise Twitter will flag it and won't post it. In this particular case, we're just going to add some things. So here's a retweet test. So that's the next thing I want to cover is in these fields inside the actions and the triggers, you can put in a combination of various things. So you can put in static text, you can put in results from a previous activity or trigger, or you can put in dynamic content, so what they call expressions or functions or formulas. So for static text, you just type it in there, and you can do a combination of the things as well. So in this particular case, I did some static text. I said retweet test. And then if you're just pulling up a list of the, or if you just want the data that comes from a previous activity or the trigger, you would find that under the dynamic content. Dynamic content will show the list of anything that came previously. In this particular case, in Power Automate, we've only got this one previous activity, which was the trigger, and you can see here the data that comes out of that. So in this particular case, the trigger passes in, the text, who it was tweeted by, if there were any images or media that was attached to it, the name of the user, just pretty much any of the information that might be attached to a tweet. You can see a lot of that in through here. And the amount of information you'll see there just depends on what the action or the trigger was. So in this particular case, all we want is the tweet text from the previous tweet. So I click on that, and you can see a little box has popped up here. So you'll see a couple different things that'll show up in the field here as you're adding things. So anything that comes from dynamic content will be in a blue box. And then if you want to do expressions, so say for instance, I want to have an expression where I'm using the concatenate function. It's a string function to concatenate text together. So we can do concat test 1, test 2, and then we just click OK. So as you can see here, this is showing up in the purplish color here, purplish pinkish. Anytime you have an expression that shows up in here, you'll see that. So if you want to remove it, there's little X's next to these. You can do that to delete anything. You can insert it in pretty much anywhere you want within like the static text. So if I want to put the tweet text in the middle of the retweet test, like so. You cannot move it around once it's in there. If it's not in the right spot, you have to delete it and then add it back in. So that's really all there is to adding, the content into these various things. What you can add just depends on the field and the action and particular activity that you're working on. If this, usually it depends on how wide your browser window is, but if you have it where this pop-up doesn't show up automatically when you click in a box, then you can click on this add dynamic content and it'll show the pop-up here. One of the things about the Power Automate editor is you need to be working on a large screen. It's not something you can do on a small screen. Unfortunately, the way the user interface is designed, in order to get access to everything and have it show up properly, you need to be working from a large screen. So at least like 1080p monitor or bigger, and then having your browser window fill the whole thing is generally about the minimum in order to be able to edit effectively. You can do it in a smaller screen, it just doesn't work quite as well. And if you need to come back here and edit your expression later, you can click on it and it'll pull up the expression, and then you can just make changes as you need to within. Okay. So in this particular case, I'm going to click Save. And you can see here there's a warning. So actions in this flow may result in an infinite trigger loop. Now, obviously, that is going to be the case here. Because it recognizes that it's taking tweets from one account and it's posting them back to the same account, which will cause this to do it over and over again. So that's the kind of things that you can see on that. I believe I have a second account set up. Oh, no, I don't. Okay. So what I'm going to do is log into my other account. Okay, so I have added my second account here. So you still see the warning here. Let me save that. It may actually, okay, good. The warning goes away. So you can see here, if I click over here, you can see that this is monitoring my main Twitter account for the new tweets. And then the post a tweet, I've selected a second account. So this is where you can see where you can have multiple connections to the same connector. Each one uses its own credentials and its own account. So that way you can work with multiple instances of the same application if you need to. So in this particular case, our simple tweet, we're just going to monitor this account for a tweet and then retweet it to this other account. So we save that. And we're going to go ahead and do test. We're going to do automatically, manually, because we haven't run this before. So you select manually, click test, and then what that'll do is it'll sit there and it'll wait for the trigger action to occur. So give it a minute here to spin up. Okay, looks like it's ready. So I'll go over here to my Twitter account. Then did you switch? Switch to my other account. Okay. Okay, so I've got it logged back into my other account. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a test tweet. Come over here to my flow. Let's watch it. And now you can see that it's run. So it was watching, saw the tweet occurred. So here's text from Barrett Blake, the outputs. So in this particular case, you can see quite a bit of detail here. And tweet ID created at. There it is. There's the text. Test tweet. Okay. And then you can see that it has posted and the tweet ID for the post was there. So I've got this up in another browser window here. And you can see it retweeted. You can see there was my static text. There was the text that was taken from the other tweet. And then there's the text from the concatenation function. So you can see it combined all three things together there and has posted them out. So go ahead and delete that. All right, and that's a really simple introduction to creating a Power Automate flow.